Okay, so we'll get started. Thanks for joining us, you guys. It's the third week of the challenge already. So my name's Dee. I'm our, I was gonna say team captain. That doesn't sound right. I'm the health coach for our team, and I've been so excited because I love putting together a team that you guys are basically running the challenge yourself, which is awesome because I love the interaction and support you're giving each other. That's what this is all about. My role is just to help guide if you have questions or if you need individual help or assistance to help you out or point you in the right direction. So big thank you to Vicki Feldman who covered for me last week. Feedback was fantastic. I know there was a couple of technical difficulties, but Vicki is worth waiting for, right? She's really got great insight and a great way that she delivers information. So my hope is that it set you guys up for a good plan for Thanksgiving. And so what I wanted to do today was just take this moment. We're sitting at the Monday after Thanksgiving, almost the beginning of December, heading into our next holiday, and just kind of take this time to reflect on how did we do through Thanksgiving, what kind of choices might have been better or different than we might have made had we not taken this challenge to and join the health games to improve our health, and then depending on what our choices were, what can we learn from that? Because I think that no matter what, I think everything in life can be a learning experience. Is what we decide to do with our takeaway, whether it's good or bad. What went well that's worth repeating again in the future, or what didn't go well. What can we learn from that, and maybe figure out what happened, and maybe be able to have a different approach when faced with a similar situation in the future. So I think my questions, I think you don't have to answer at the moment, but just think about this is, so how was Thanksgiving? Overall, scale of 1 to 10, what do we think in terms of how did we do following all the habits of health, from eating the 6 meals a day to drinking our water, getting some exercise, and of course with the challenges faced with the day. And so I think one of the questions would ask, did you have a plan? I work with a lot of clients, and I always say, just have a plan. Like, what's your plan for the day? Is your plan just, if you're on the 5-in-1 plan or the MetaFast program, is your goal to stay on plan for that day? Is your plan to go off plan? And do you have a plan for that? Like, is there something specific you're looking for that you want to eat? Or do you just plan to throw caution to the wind and see what happens? I mean, that's not highly recommended, but some people choose that. So did you have a plan? And then that being said, did you stick to your plan? Because sometimes we go into things with great intentions, and we think, no matter what, I am not going to eat that. And before you know it, you're eating it. So that being said, if you stuck to your plan, kudos. And probably I would say having a plan is what helped tremendously with that. But if not, I think it's actually Liz that I've heard this phrase from. But if you chose to go off your plan for that day, and by plan, I just mean what did you intend your outcome to be for the day? Use that experience. And I think the phrase, I think it's you, Liz, that said, get curious about it. Is that you? So I'll open you up, Liz, because I learned a lot when you use that phrase in one of our calls. What do you mean when you ask or advise a client to get curious about a situation?
Yeah, I think so often we have judgment about situations, our situation, whether we stick to a plan or we don't stick to a plan, and especially when we have so crystal clear of an intention and we fall off, and we tend to just then let things snowball and get bad. Instead of going into judgment mode, if you can find your curiosity and say, I wonder what that was about, and I wonder what I'll do different next time. I wonder. If you can switch around to curiosity-seeking questions and be curious, you can always learn something from your experience. So if you feel bad and you don't want to do that again, then you have information. You have information for you to move forward, and you can step back from judgment into a little bit of an observer role. And when you get into that observer role, then you can find your curiosity and learn in any situation. So there's really no situation in which you can't learn something from and get some value out of. So that's what we mean when we talk about getting curious. Find your curiosity. And the best way I know how to do that is to ask I wonder questions of yourself. I wonder what. I wonder what happened. I wonder what the trigger was. I wonder what I can do differently next time. Those kinds of questions.
Yeah, that's so good. And I mean, it really reflects what we as health coaches do with our clients. I mean, I think that as individuals, we tend to be way harder on ourselves than somebody else would, right? So a lot of times I'll talk to a client and they'll say, oh, like it wasn't good. And they'll use words like, oh, I was bad, and it's just these words that in and of themselves are just judging and critical, and they make you feel bad about yourself. And what I'll do as a health coach, and I know Liz does and the other coaches on the line, like we'll just help reframe it. Okay, well, all right, so you ate the sweet potato casserole. Big deal. I always say, did you enjoy it? Like, was it worth it? Like, because I'm a big proponent of no judgment. Like, if you wanted it and you ate it, I hope you enjoyed it, and don't beat yourself up. It's more about what you do 3 hours later, or what you do with the rest of that meal than the fact that you ate some sweet potatoes. I mean, worlds will not collide because you ate a couple sweet potatoes. So it's more about, God bless you, Kathy. Just saw her sneeze. So that's, I think, a really, really good point is what you just said, is just not to have any judgment about it. Get curious. So, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, we kept our meal very, I would say, relatively healthy. I mean, our whole family has shifted our eating, and we just don't get excited about unhealthy foods anymore. So there's just not a lot available. But I will say, I did make this pie that I thought that everybody would like. And I also had some wine. And those two things together set my blood sugar off big time. And so then before I knew it, like the following day, I was having a hard time staying and eating the right kinds of foods. I mean, I really just kept gravitating towards the bad stuff. And even my husband kind of looked at me at one point like, what are you doing? And so I had to slow down and stop and go, okay, what's going on here? And what I realized was, you know what? It's my blood sugar. I've got to go back to the habits of this balanced meals every 2 to 3 hours, protein, carbs, stabilize it to get back into control. So, so that's the kind of thing that I'm saying is what was the trigger? What led to it? If you ate something because of, we're around family, maybe you got anxious, maybe you got angry, emotional about something. I mean, pay attention to that, because most likely these scenarios will arise again. So that's what we just want, is for it to be a learning experience. Another good question to ask yourself is, what kind of non-scale victories do you have? For example, like I always, I talk to a lot of clients today, and, we're celebrating what went well. One person told me, well, I did have a few bites of, this or a few bites of that. And I said, well, great. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. I said, I got a question for you. And she said, what? And I said, was it less than what you would have done had you not been on this plan, on this program? And she said, oh my gosh, like it was night and day. Like I will not go back to the way I used to eat Thanksgiving dinner. And so that's a non-scale victory, because that means that's what healthy people do. Unhealthy people eat unhealthy foods sometimes, but they eat them in moderate, in small quantities, and they eat them occasionally. And then they go right back to their healthy habits. So that's a non-scale victory, because that's where I feel like somebody's really moving forward, is when they're not ditching the plan and going crazy and then coming back to the plan. That's what dieters do. And that's the mindset we're trying to shift away from. So I guess I'm going to open it up, and let's just get some feedback from you guys on what's going on. I have some other questions if time permits, but I would just love if anybody wants to share, like, did you have a plan? Did you stick to your plan? And then what did you learn about yourself from this past Thanksgiving or the holiday weekend? And just unmute yourself, whoever wants to chime in first.
Hi, Dee. I can talk if nobody else is jumping in.
Yeah, absolutely, Kathy.
I did go off plan, but I stuck to my plan. And I posted about it on our team page in the Meltdown. I decided that I was going to have like 2 tablespoons of mashed potatoes and 2 tablespoons of green bean casserole, where in the past it would have been more like a cup of each, right? So I decided I wasn't going to, not drive myself crazy by not having anything. I skipped a lot of things that I would have done before, like I don't even like stuffing that much, so I didn't have any stuffing. I didn't have any gravy, because that to me is not a sacrifice at all. So I really carefully planned out what I was going to eat, how much of it I was going to eat, and then exactly how I was going to get it back on track on Friday. So that worked really well for me. Not feeling deprived and not feeling crazy either, not going to either pole. But like you said, like even after having a tiny sliver of pumpkin pie, the next day I really did crave the sugar like all over again. So that was when I was like, okay, I got to hop back on the water.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that worked pretty well for me.
That is awesome. And I love it. Shows you the power. Like our body tells us right away. Like once you're away from that kind of stuff and you go back to it, you realize the pull and the power that it has on you. So again, that's can be a really good learning experience, is that, when you go to have that choice again, is it worth it to have to go through that challenge the next day? So you said you felt satisfied. You felt like those couple bites did the
very
trick.
much so. Yeah, and so the majority of what I had was the turkey, because that's a decent choice. So, okay, right on with the turkey. I also didn't have any appetizers. I knew I didn't want to do that, and I didn't have any alcohol because I didn't really care whether I had the wine or not.
Mm-hmm. So great. That's a win. I mean, that's
super
a
detailed plan.
You stuck to it, and you're back on your plan.
Yep. And I'm down 4 since the challenge started. So
wow,
I'm really excited about that because I would have been the up 7 or 8 person. So super excited about that.
Yeah, that is a win. Good. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good. Who else?
I'm open.
Hey, Marcy.
Hi. Just like we talked this afternoon, I probably had one of the best holidays because I planned and I listened to what Vicki had to say about visualization last week, and I just visualized what I wanted to eat. And when it came time to eat, that's all I really saw. And I knew I was going to do my 6 ounces of turkey and I was going to have my vegetable. I did make a grain-free dressing, which was a fantastic recipe as part of the vegetables, and the pumpkin pie, which I really liked. I had put that in the custard cup and ate 2 spoonfuls of it. And if I wanted 3, I was going to take 3, but I didn't. But the planning the visualization was very exciting. And I loved the cooking. I cooked everything for everybody. I watched them eat the mashed potatoes and the gravy and everything else under the sun, but there was no desire. And that's a very first for me. And I'm very grateful for it. Loved last week's huddle.
Good. That's powerful. That's powerful. I love that you said you visualized. And and I love what
that's also the same as the stop and challenge and then choose what to do is what doing what Liz had to say too is the same type of thing. It's using that mindfulness and when I get out of the mindlessness, then I run into trouble, and I don't like that feeling anymore.
Yeah, that's a great learning tool for yourself to realize that, having a plan and sticking to it and staying committed. What I heard both of you and Kathy say was that even though some of that other stuff wasn't there, like the dressing or the potatoes, like so many of us, we would have just eaten it anyway because it was there. So the fact you didn't is great.
Yes.
Pick and choose what you want. Good. Who else has something to share or a non-scale victory from the weekend? So my other question is, how does your family and loved ones respond to you being healthier? And what do you say? And have you faced any challenges with people questioning what you're doing or challenging you to do things other than what you want to do? I thought that might be worthwhile because we usually encounter that, especially this time of year. Nobody? 100% supportive.
I have another one. I just want to give somebody else a chance, but Mine was weird. Actually, my family is super supportive of everything I'm doing. My brother was the only one who was here with me, and we just went to another friend's house, so the kind of food pushing stuff wasn't an issue. What I was having trouble with is that my family is over enthusiastic. So now my brother was like, okay, why don't we go to the gym today? And I was like, because I'm not going today, because I don't want to go today. So it's more like I'm getting more pushing harder than I'm comfortable with, than pushing me off the ledge. But I also had to educate him too, because he was here for 4 days. Like, he's like, well, I'm going to cook pasta tonight. I'm like, okay, that's definitely not a good idea. So how about, chicken stir fry? So it was a little bit weird, but it was fine. But it was good conversations.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like what was your feeling? Like, if he suggested going to the gym and you didn't want to, did you feel resistance, or what did you feel about that comment?
I just felt like, I don't know, and it was very much a knee-jerk emotional reaction. It was like being judged, like you're not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's like we never know what his intention was. All we know is how we receive, right?
Right.
I mean, his intention was probably, hey, let me be encouraging, supportive, go to the gym with
Exactly.
Kathy. Who knows? Probably wasn't being judging, but yet we receive it that way. And that kind of reinforces the whole health journey is intrinsic motivation, right? Like,
Right.
we don't go to the gym because somebody else says we should. We go because
Yes. So I read that day that it came up, actually. So it was a spot on day to read that.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have a good conversation about it. I just said, well, I plan which days I'm going to go well in advance. And, if you want to go, that's fine. But
Yeah.
I kind of have X, Y, and Z on my agenda today.
Do you think it was like an innuendo?
It felt like that. And like Dee said, I really don't think his intention was bad. I think
No.
it was just,
How you perceived it.
yeah, absolutely how I perceived it. So it's a lot goes back to, we talk about how, I think from, oh my gosh, from like the day 4 email that I got from my health coach was, the huge battles are in our heads, right? So
That's what I found out, and I've just kind of shake these things off now. I just actually reject them, and it's becoming more automatic instead of falling into me being the people pleaser and looking at everything else. I'm just very free now to say no, thank you, or I don't care to, and I've never been that way before, and I think that's exciting.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
I have a male friend who, he's at his healthy weight. He's in good health, and he referred his wife to me, and she's on plan. But she goes on and off plan. She has, but they go on vacation and whatnot, and so she has a plan. It's just not she's sticking 100% to plan. But he was just kind of he was sharing with me, because I see him on a weekly basis. He was sharing with me how hard it is for him as a spouse, because he wants to be supportive of her, and then like sometimes he'll feel like, well, should you be eating that? But then she'll get mad at him, but he's trying to be supportive. And so it's probably this vicious circle we play. And I think anytime you get family and all that, you get a whole nother dynamic of emotions involved. So, well, it sounds like you handled it well. And especially that you changed it on the pasta was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It actually wound up being a very good conversation for us. And so he did back up. He's like, okay, you're doing great. I'm just,
I know. How about you, Gina? We haven't heard from you in a while. How was your holiday?
Actually, it was really good. One of the things I think that really helped me was on the challenge, the recipes that people were posting. So I was supposed to take dressing and, of all things, dessert to my mother-in-law's. And so we actually bought a dessert apple pie, which I don't like at all. So that was easy. That was a no-brainer. My husband made homemade ice cream, which I do like, but I didn't have any. And then for the dressing, I made a sort of traditional dressing, but then I also made the one that Marcy might be talking about, the cauliflower that you did on the Fox 5.
Yeah,
I
that's
did
good.
that. It was good, and I used spicy turkey sausage, which we use, in things anyway to kind of spice them up. And the funny thing was, I had this huge dish of more of a sort of traditional dressing, a twist on it. But I had as much of that left over, and for us, it's really throwing it out. We didn't keep it around. But I had more of that left over than I did the cauliflower dressing, and I thought that was really interesting. So our families eat pretty healthy anyway, and I did taste a few things at my mother-in-law's, but I think it was Kathy that said, a spoon of this, a spoon of that. So a spoon of broccoli casserole that she makes really healthy to start with, but it did have crackers on top, things like that. I did plan ahead, and I thought normally I'd have several glasses of wine. I did have wine, but I had half a glass. I didn't pour my glass full. I just poured a little bit in there. Also, if I'm going to do something like that, I now will put ice in it or sparkling water or something like that, which helps me a lot too. Cuts the calories and the sugar, and you still get a little taste of the wine, but in the social part of it, but it's not like having several glasses. So anyway, and we had family around all weekend, and a lot of things going on. So my bigger challenge really was, like on a couple of days where Friday, for example, we ended up eating out twice. And while you feel like you're picking the healthier choices, I feel like the portion sizes are always too big. And if you don't just push them away, you eat too much. So while I had a plan and I knew what I was going to get, I should have, kind of cut the portions in half to start with, or push some to the side or something like that. So, but when you ask, was it better than before, better than last year? Night and day, absolutely. It would have been totally different. So, yeah.
That's good to hear. That's really good. Yeah, I made we had the cauliflower stuffing as well, and it was a big hit at our house. Really good, and so filling. Like you put all those vegetables in it and stuff, so it really makes a difference. Well, just to kind of wrap us up, I mean, we focused a lot, like the past week or whatever. We've been talking a lot about food, and whatever. But I think we all know. Sometimes I think we get a little derailed in just only focusing on the healthy habit of eating, right? Our eating habits, and not necessarily the other habits of health. And so I think as we kind of hit midway through the health games, it's a real good time to kind of evaluate where are you with all the habits of health. And that would mean like in the area of sleep. Are you working on, getting or are already getting the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night? Is that an opportunity area for you? I've seen a lot of posts about water, this week, that people are having trouble as the weather's getting colder, we're getting busier, drinking water. I mean, that's a habit of health. We see those tips every day. Those are the reinforcement on why we need it, but a good time to kind of step back, evaluate where you are, and then set a plan. If you're not meeting your goals for that, set a plan. You can work with me or work with your health coach just to get that plan. Sometimes somebody can just give you an easy tip, and you're like, oh my gosh. I think Marcy and I talked earlier, and she's forgetting to eat. And I'm like, well, how about we set a timer on your phone, And so just a simple solution by talking to somebody else can help. Exercise. I know that's an area that a lot of people struggle, that they don't do on a consistent basis. So if it's not a part of your life, how can you start to incorporate that, or make sure that you're doing it, if you are doing it consistently and challenging yourself. So it is the big picture, it's kind of things that we get the participation points for, but if we don't speak a lot about it, and I just wanted to do that little public service announcement. Administratively, hopefully you saw this week, there is a side contest for everybody who has 750 points. By the 21st day, there'll be a couple drawings, like every 500 people, they'll do a drawing for that. I think that the past 2 days of the daily reading have been phenomenal. Today's was on like non-food celebration things you can do in the month of December, things to treat yourself right, maybe buy yourself a new outfit, or socialize, go to lunch with a friend, coffee with a friend, make time for personal connection. It doesn't have to necessarily be food related. So I thought today's was really good, and yesterday's was really good about gratitude. And if you live in the Atlanta area, we are having a client holiday celebration this Sunday. I posted it on our team wall today. If you're a client of mine, you will get the email directly about it, but would love for you to attend. We're going to do a food swap. We'll have more recipes like the dressing, holiday related recipes. We'll actually be doing a presentation on tips. We'll have success stories, really talk about the whole trilogy of Take Shape for Life. So it's going to be a great event on Sunday at 2:30. So hopefully, if you live local, you'll join us for that. And any other questions before we wrap it up for tonight? We're good? All right, well, 25 points for attending live. Thanks for being with us. I know you're busy, and see you on the team wall. Thanks.
Good night.